Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Workwise Business Insights podcast. I'm Michelle Smith from Clarity and Beyond, and this is Rosaline Conrumney from the HR department.
Yeah.
And we are here today to talk about the subject of well-being and what that means in terms of us personally, what it means in terms of the people that we work with,
Mm-hmm.
what it means in our sort of wider lives, not just in work, but how this subject is something that reaches across every aspect of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, Rosalind, what's well-being to you?
Michelle, thank you. Hello everyone. I think for me personally, well-being, is actually how we as individual, how we feel, how we function. So both on the social life or level, and importantly, personal, because it's actually how we feel personally that will actually transfer to the external people, isn't it? So if I don't feel great within myself, it will be difficult to interact with people on the social level. So, and for me as well, it is a feeling of satisfaction, having control of my life, myself, and to cap it all, it is overall, it reflects overall quality of my life or one's life. So if my well-being is not intact, it's not good, it will be difficult for me to function, and because it will affect my health, my happiness as well. And also, I know we're not talking about mental health, but at some point we have to relate it because it links, So it's actually having a good mental health balance, if it makes sense, and a sense of meaning and purpose. And also for me personally, having a good well-being actually helps me to manage my stress level in general.
Yeah, I think you've encapsulated everything that I was thinking of. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Wheel of Life.
I've heard it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and for me, the Wheel of Life is a great tool for really looking at how balanced life is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very personal thing to look at, and it sort of covers relationships, career, finances, spirituality, health, fitness, a whole range of the things that really bring life to our connections and how we function every day. And I think for me, when I'm not in balance on one of those segments of the Wheel of Life, I know that my well-being suffers. And what we could do, actually, I'll link a copy of the Wheel of Life in the YouTube channel
Okay, that's good.
when we publish this episode of the podcast, because it's a great tool for people to use to kind of think, okay, what's going on in each area of my life,
Mm-hmm.
and what changes can I make?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what small changes can I make to improve my overall well-being?
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. And that will link us nicely into how can we improve our own well-being. So I think, I don't know, Michelle, in terms of, you've talked about the wheel of life. So to then move on from, we've talked about what well-being means to each one of us. So then thinking about the wheel of life, and this will link nicely into how can we improve our well-being. From your personal experience, how can you, or what do you think one can do to improve one's well-being?
I think it's about self-knowledge, so
Mm.
understanding how we react in certain situations, or being able to recognize the things that maybe trigger us in some way,
Mm-hmm.
or the things that we find stressful,
Mm-hmm.
and taking time to recognize that
Mm-hmm.
and think, okay, what small things can I
Mm-hmm.
change to improve the way I either react to things
Mm-hmm.
or the way I deal with certain situations. And I talk in terms of small things
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a firm believer that, a 1% change in a positive direction
Mm-hmm.
is a great way to start.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for instance, we get overwhelmed in a situation where we've got so many things to do that we just don't know where to
Mm-hmm.
start, and we then react by procrastinating, for example. It's a classic example. Um, just rather than beating ourselves up when things like that happen, recognizing that it's happening and then thinking, okay, what is that one tiny change that I can make that will move me in a positive direction? So I think that's where I would start in terms of improvement on well-being. But how about you? What 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 are your thoughts, and what strategies do you
I
use?
love that word, strategies. I was going to use activities actually that I do, but I love the word strategies. I think that
Okay.
is the right word. I think for me as well, I think is the feeling of ownership. Having ownership of my own well-being. So how do I do that? Is to kind of understand my own stress level, if it makes sense. So my signature. So what I've done in the past is to first of all learn how to spot my own stress level. That's one of my strategies. And I'm a very light sleeper, and if I didn't have 2 or 3 consecutive nights that I've not been able to switch off,
Yeah.
I know my well-being, is at stake. So I try to kind of learn to say no to people, you
Okay.
know. Otherwise, I won't function well. I believe in what is worth doing at all is worth doing well. So if I don't say
Yeah.
no to that individual, I will not be able to perform well or to deliver in terms of what they want me to do. Um,
Yeah.
check my calendar to see if I have full week. What is it that is been affecting me that I've not been able to switch off. Check my calendar if I've been having back-to-back meeting, things that happening at work, home and everything. Because as we know, home is busy, then thinking about work as well. And then ask my loved ones if it's too much. I ask my loved ones to help out, especially like
Okay.
home chores and all of the things. Um, and then kind of, if my diary is full, I kind of go back to see what are the important things that I can do, the priorities, what are the things that I can actually move, the dates that I can move. So
Yeah.
basically is to make sure I have enough gaps in my diary for that particular time to be able to switch off and then come back. I also, because sometimes I find it difficult to do physical exercise because it drains me. So what I've learned in times, so I've kind of joined the dancing class. So it is exercise, but different kind of music and everything,
Yeah.
and it helps me. And when I go, I don't take car. I walk, intentionally walk down. It takes me 15 minutes to get to the leisure center, and I have my music on, and I have time to reflect and think. Then at the same time coming back, and I found that dancing helps. So every Monday I go for my dancing class. So that's it. For at the moment, that is what I then do. To make sure I kind of my strategies. So physical exercise, and then try to eat well, balanced diet. If you know what I mean. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think you've raised a really good point there. Actually, exercise. Although we all know that we should do it, it can be quite difficult to get started with it. But the way you've described dancing, I saw fun in what you were talking about. You know, you found an activity that you enjoy, and that movement of the body, but also the power of music as well. Those two activities together can really help to relieve tension, and also give you that hit of feel good hormones. You know, some endorphins that really raise your mood and make you feel nicely challenged and tired when you've done it. I think that's a great example of how you can actually use exercise in a really positive way and fun way.
Laugh.
I think
Yes.
fun is so important for well-being.
It's good.
So important.
Yeah. And I think everybody should find their own balance, you know. Physical exercise, gym might help some people. You know, it depends. I've tried it and I know the following day I just feel aching and everything. So at some point I joined aqua aerobic as well. It's exercise in water. With dancing as well, but because the leisure center that I was going to, they actually stopped that and they've taken it to waterfront in Woolwich, and I just thought, you know what, that is far from me, which is it's not far to be honest with you. And I think for me it's parking as well, and I found it, and there's closer one, and then I saw that they do dancing class, and I just thought, why not? So, you know, and that really helps. Yeah.
And that's again is a really good point.
Yeah.
You know, if we're making a change in our lives to improve our well-being, we want the path of least resistance, don't we? We want to utilize an option, a system that enables us to do the thing in the easiest possible way. So having to go miles to the gym and then struggling to find a parking space, and it adding more time to your already preciously limited available time, you're kind of not going to be motivated to do it. So finding something that is easy to do, that fits with your life, that you enjoy doing. A walk in nature, you know, that's free to all of us, isn't it? You know, you just need a pair of shoes and the sort of to take the action and go out the front door. It's finding the things that work for us. I think you're so right. You know, it's a very personal thing.
And I think bringing out from what you just said about walking as well, in terms of my profession as HR, one of the things that when we then kind of put some contracts of employment or staff handbook or policies and procedures in place, one of the things that I've actually encouraged my clients to do is to have a well-being strategy within their policies, and especially with working from home and everything. So recently, one of the things that I've actually suggested to a client in terms of is just to reduce sickness and absence as well. And people working from home, they feel isolated, don't they? So then you then think about all of those things that actually they might be missing. So talking about suggested mental and emotional well-being, you know. So one of the things that I've actually linked them, so I've linked them with a gym that actually they do mindfulness, you know. So basically they will buy like few credits, and lunchtime people can join in over the Zoom. You know, they practice mindfulness. So this individual, they're part of my added value partners as well. So they practice mindfulness, mediation, anything that can reduce stress anyway. So, and then connecting with others. So within their teams, to find even 10-15 minutes, they call it let's have a cuppa. So they can rant or whatever they want to talk about. I always joke, talk about your manager, you know, whatever you want to talk about. And some people said, no, I'd rather not do that. Then bringing it back to what you just said about walking, some said, okay, I'd rather walk my dog, you know, and that is excluding their lunch break. So it's just to take their eyes off their screen 15 minutes out, you know. And that also in times of, we know like every May is learning at work week, and I've actually encouraged some of my clients as well to embrace that month, learning at work week, engage in lifelong learning, you know, People can just come in. No one is too young or too old to learn. You know, they have people with different skills. So one of my clients, what actually they did was they know how to do sign languages. So they actually did that during learning at work, and you had so many people coming out. You know, so it's part of lifelong learning. So those are the things that actually help with mental and emotional well-being, and it's good for someone that's got, you know, no matter, you know, 1, 2, or 3 employees, try to incorporate well-being into your policies and procedures that you have.
Yeah.
It helps.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think even before you get to that stage
Yeah.
where you're employing people,
Yeah.
make it a cornerstone of your small business for you.
Mm.
Because if you do grow and you do employ people, you're already in that space where you prioritise well-being, and it's right up there. So it'll be a natural progression
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
When they come to you,
Yeah.
and they say, right, I need to employ my first member of staff. They've kind
It's
of
policy.
got that in their organisational culture,
Yeah.
haven't they?
Yeah.
And I think we all benefit then. You know, we benefit when we're working on our own from incorporating some of these ideas into our everyday routines.
Yeah.
But when you start working with other people, or even if you don't start employing other people, you sort of, when you're having conversations with other business owners, you're embodying that positive commitment to well-being.
I love that. Yeah.
That kind of,
Yeah.
it sort of, it catches on then,
Yeah.
doesn't
It does. It
And I
does.
think that's probably one of the reasons why we wanted to talk about well-being, was because it is, when you start having the conversation and you start looking at the different ways that you can introduce improvements, it's an easy win actually.
It is.
And you know, you can get so creative with these things. And I'm really glad actually that you mentioned the mindfulness, because I've been running some free guided relaxation sessions.
Wow.
Last Monday of the month. So just on Zoom, 45 minutes, I take you through a guided relaxation. And it is, you know, it is sort of giving the opportunity to people to say, 45 minutes, that's all it is. I'm just going to switch off and I'm going to let somebody help me to relax.
That's good.
You know, and it really fires up the brain. You've mentioned creativity and all the benefits that you get from doing these wonderfully positive things. Gosh, you know, you come back in the afternoon after taking a break or meditating or whatever it is that you've done, walk in nature, and you
ready to start the
different.
afternoon. Yes. It's really good.
Absolutely.
It's really good. And I love what you said as well. It's one of the things that I've always said. I don't know why I missed it out. You know, so we have some clients, when you're having this conversation around businesses, people will tell you, oh, I don't have employees yet. It doesn't mean that you cannot kind of start putting together that culture, you know, your vision, what you want your company to be. And you're right, like you rightly said, if you didn't have those measures in place, then you then start having your first employee or your staff, you know, all those things are already in place for you to and if you have it as well, I think it helps you as well as a business owner, working silo, because you practice that. If you then start practicing that, you know, then once you start having your own employees, that is what you're going to transfer to them. And that brings me back to emotional resilience. I know our last episode we talked about resilience, then you talk about emotional resilience, because with emotional resilience you can cultivate attitude of gratitude. So you know, as because that is what I always tell my kids, attitude of gratitude, even for individual. For myself, regular express gratitude for myself. You know, I do something, I achieve my bucket list or my to-do list today. I say, oh, well done, Rosalind, you know, and then go back and set up goals for the following day. And I think it really helps. If you then start practicing, it's what is going to transfer to your prospective staff, you know.
Yeah, and it is a really interesting area of psychology actually, because what you're kind of talking about there is opening your mind to the positive stuff, And when you do that, you cultivate more positivity. Whereas if you tend to err on the
Of
negative,
course.
you perpetuate the negative.
Yeah.
And actually, if you can, that's where that's attitude of gratitude is
Mm-hmm.
really, really, really great,
Yeah.
because it gets you into the positive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I love
I
that.
love that. Yeah, I love it.
I'm going to pinch that one.
Attitude of, yeah, I
I
have it. I love it. I have it somewhere written in my room. Attitude of gratitude, and it really helps because as human beings we can put ourselves down. If you don't have that time, what you talked about earlier about we go out to reflect. This mindfulness that we talked about. You come back and you just feel putting yourself down all the time. You're not looking at the positive. What have I achieved today? Michelle, what have I achieved? Rosen, what have you achieved today? And then if you then kind of have a space in your head, then that is where the attitude of gratitude will come and say, actually, in the last 6 hours, 6 hours, I think I've achieved 3 hours work, something. And I think it really helps as well. And I love that bit in terms of that 45 minutes mindfulness. And that is what in HR, sometimes we talked about occupational health for people. So I would just encourage people to seek professional help, a therapist, you have a counselor like Michelle that can support with mindfulness. So it really helps. So if you've done everything that we've kind of talked about, what helps might not for me, might not help Michelle. What help for Michelle might not help. So maybe that would be opportunity for individual then to then start thinking of seeking professional help that can help
I
them.
think that's such an
Yeah,
important point,
yeah.
because sometimes it's great to sort of think about all the positive things that we can do, but sometimes that little bit of extra professional help is the difference between sinking completely and flourishing. And there is absolutely no shame in being in that place where reaching out for help, there's no shame in that at all.
No shame.
None.
No shame. Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Just a quick question for you. You mentioned earlier when you were describing how your well-being practices, and you mentioned control, and that you like to have control over what's happening in your life.
Yeah.
And this probably goes back to the resilience that we'd already talked about previously. But how do you manage your well-being when something completely out of your control happens? What do you do to support your mental, physical and spiritual well-being in those situations?
Physical, spiritual well-being. I love that. And I think if something is beyond my control, it's just the word you've said. It's beyond my control. There's no reason to worry. As human being, we do worry. To be honest with you, the first thing that will happen is to worry. But if you can clear your mind and just think, what am I to do? What is the next step? Worrying is not going to solve anything. Do I need to seek professional help? Do I need to call any of my family? Or just think about who can help in that situation. So if it's not an urgent thing, I can pack it somewhere, have a think, go for a walk, call somebody, call a friend or family member that can actually, this is a situation, what do you think? Because you might be surprised, someone else might have been through what you are going through, that actually said, oh, I've been through that, this and this was what I did, and that might really help. So I always say open conversation, don't shy away, have open conversation. And if it's something that is going to linger on, Michelle, as you know me, I go for retreats. In April, I was in Malta for 4 days retreat. It really helps me as well. And I think when you then come back, you have ability, switch off, then you have ability to be able to think well. So, but if something is beyond my control, like you said, the word speaks for itself. There's no reason to worry. So
I've written that down word for word. If I can't control the situation, then there's no reason to worry.
Yeah. No easy. And the spiritual aspect as a Christian as well for me, I don't, situation is beyond me. So, you know.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that that's an important aspect of who we are as human
Mm-hmm.
beings. We're not just skin and bones and all the rest of it. We have stuff going on more deeply than that,
Yeah.
and I think recognizing that, when I talk about spirituality, I don't necessarily even mean, religion
Mm-hmm.
or beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about who we are at the deepest part of
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and what is really important, what lights us up, what is it that makes us us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think you said right at the beginning when you talked about having purpose, and I think that that's the thing that's the real driver in terms of spirituality.
Exactly.
What is
Yeah.
purpose?
Yeah. And also, I think earlier on I talked about goals as well. And, you free your calendar in time to revisit your goals. And I think planning is very important as well. And this is something that I learned when my kids were growing up. I tend not to leave my chores till weekends. I know some people, they just say, oh, Saturday I will do that. As a mother of four, by Wednesday, I would do all the laundries that they've used since Saturday. I'll do that on a Wednesday. That's my midweek.
Okay.
Then on Saturday, Friday night, I do the remaining. Every night, I do my chores, clean the kitchen and everything. I don't wake up in the morning to start cleaning. I clean as I go along. And it kind of, free some of my time on Saturdays rather than wait till the whole weekend to start washing, doing all of that. I kind of split it and it really helps. So it's all about planning as well. And then you then know the weekend you have some of that for your activities for your kids rather than just washing and all of that and rushing for everything. And it kind of helps you to have good quality time as well for yourself and for your family. And I'm still doing that now. I still have what I do my midweek. I don't wait till weekend. So because my kids are grown up now, as a matter of fact, apart from the church activities that I do sometimes on Saturdays, it fills my weekend. I don't have to wake up early. Sometimes I can have a lazy Saturday. I call it pajamas day, whereby I
Oh,
just,
yeah.
I'm awake, just relax on the bed. So that's just, yeah, planning as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think we can sometimes resist the idea of planning. Um, I know I've spoken to people in the past who feel that it restricts them, that to plan and do things in a certain way on a certain day is not the way that they want to go. But I think you've described that really well, because actually there's a
Mm-hmm.
payoff for doing
Mm-hmm.
that. And that payoff is having more free
Yeah.
time, more quality time at the
Yeah.
weekend. So actually, when you really break it down and you think about it, okay, I'm going to make this change. What does the change give me? What is the reward, if you
Yeah.
like, for devoting Wednesday evening to making sure that all the washing's done?
Mm.
What is the payoff? And actually, then your brain starts to look at things in a more
Of
reward-based
course.
way.
Of course.
So it is literally like a reward,
It
isn't
is a
it?
reward.
You plan something, you get your reward on the
Yes.
weekend.
Which is my lazy day, my pajamas day.
Oh,
Then relax. That's it. But sometimes, like you talked about something that are unexpected. So I'm not gonna call it like situation beyond my expectations or that I cannot control. But unexpected might happen. I say, oh, this today is gonna be my lazy day, my pajamas day. Something might
yeah.
come up, then you have to do it. But at least I know that I've already planned myself of all of that. So yes, yeah, really good. And something I'm thinking about now, about during COVID as well, my son gave me a book. It's a journal, um,
Mm.
365 days journal. It's a mind journal. It has a date, and it has some Bible quotations as well, and some affirmation as well. So before, I used to have, in fact, I have my journal here. So it's just normal book that I record things. So, but since that time that he gave me, I've been ordering that on Amazon. So it has different quotations and everything, and just journal what you are thinking in your heart, and it's beside my bedtime. Even if I wake up to go to the loo in the middle of the night, my best idea comes in the shower. So I come out, I just write it down, and it really helps me. So, and I think it might help as well around stress level people might be going through. Not everybody feel comfortable to talk to people or to share what they're going through, and I think having a mind journal as well really help. Yeah.
There is something really powerful about writing things down. I think it's that connection between the brain and the hand, and the process of actually getting it out of your head. So particularly on those nights where something's keeping you awake, and that 3 a.m. problem that a lot of entrepreneurs have, you know, that thing that
seriously
it's there and then you can't ignore it.
Yeah.
Writing it down literally gets it out of your head. You know, and it's on that piece of paper. You can go back to bed, you can worry about it in the morning, you know, because there's nothing you can do about it in that moment. It goes back to what you were saying before, doesn't it? You know, can't control it, so I don't need to worry about it, but I know it's on that piece of paper and I can come back to it later. So I think that's a wonderful tip.
And I love that brain and hand, you know, so opportunity for, it's a good way for my brain to dump what's going on in my head on a piece of paper. I love that.
And I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think about the psychological ins and outs of it, but there is a definite connection between writing something down, so that it's more powerful to write something with a pen and a piece of paper than it is to type it. Particularly if you're trying to work through a problem, or you know, you're trying to generate ideas. You'll find that creativity flows a lot better.
It does.
With a pen and a piece of paper.
And I suppose just like you have in a book, isn't it? At some point the book will be full, isn't it? So our brain is like that. When your brain is full and you need to have some head space, then you get another book and just dump it there. I love that. I didn't think it that way, but to be honest with you, journaling has been very, very helpful for me as well.
And what a lovely son to buy you a journal.
It was during COVID. Very thoughtful. Very thoughtful. And it's specifically for journal for women or something. And that's why it has some different quotations. So I'm sure they have one for men as well. So, but if you go on Amazon, I'm sure you have different ones. And I've actually bought one, exactly the same one that my son gave me. I bought it with for a friend that actually lost the husband shortly after COVID as well.
Grief is so difficult, isn't it? And actually they were able to find some relief from journaling. It really does prove the concept that it is a really beneficial thing to do. Well, maybe we could also include a link with the notes of the podcast. So people can take a look and maybe have a look, see whether it's something that they would like to explore too.
So notes to journal, okay, for men and women. Thank you. Excellent. So I think we've actually talked about so many things, to be honest with you, Michelle. But I know a lot of people, some of our viewers might be thinking, "Oh, what is the difference, or what is the relationship with between well-being and mental health?" So I don't know if you have any idea, because obviously they are two complete. You know, they don't kind of relate to they kind of relate to each other. But it's completely different, isn't it? In terms of the distinct concept.
I think well-being is very much about being proactive,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And noticing when things aren't going well
Mm-hmm.
and making changes at that point. Whereas mental health is very much a symptom of situation, circumstances, or physiology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and whilst all of the things that we've talked about can contribute to really good and positive mental health, mental ill health is something that, sometimes, as you mentioned earlier, needs some expert input.
Professional help.
What's your thoughts? Yeah, what are your thoughts, Rosalind?
I think, yeah, mental health. Well-being. We talked about that. Is like you said, is proactive and then focusing, looking after yourself. But mental health is very, very, very heavy. Again, is about your thoughts as well, though, and it's about your feelings. And but however, is ability to cope with everyday challenges, isn't it? So if it's beyond you, and we've seen some people going through mental health. I talked about grief earlier. You know, people do all sorts of things. Grief can take you anywhere. Family loss and everything. And some people might have mental health at the point of even committing suicide. So, but for me, I think it's about you understanding your own emotions and managing them effectively. Because if it's not managed well, it could result in the negative side. Like I said, people can even commit suicide because they think it's an illness. I can't talk to people. No one else have actually gone through what I'm going through, and they don't want to be open. So for me, it is actually able to understand your emotional and manage them effectively. So
Yeah, and I think being able to recognise in ourselves and in others when a situation might have tipped into somebody needing some additional help and support, and just being able to see the flags that maybe suggest that it's time to get or signpost somebody to an organisation like Mind,
yes.
Samaritans. There's a lot of help and support out there, and actually as an employer, understanding that and being able to sort of know what you would do when somebody's really struggling and how you can help them, or help them to help themselves, is really important.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because talking about the employers as well, so all the employers out there, just to recognize that mental health is more than just the absence of the illness. I know we all have, each organization, you have your own sickness and absence policies. You have, how many days triggers long time absence or disciplinaries and all of that. But you then need to start thinking about the state and overall well-being of that your particular staff. So even if your policies are there as a guideline to guide you, but as a manager, as a business owner, you should be able to think about sit down with the employee and then think in terms of discretion. How can I support them, rather than then push them more into the state of, I know we're all trying to run a business, but then thinking about being an employer of choice that people wants to come to and work with you. So, and also ability to recognize the signs when it comes, so which is very good. And good EAP, employee assistance program, within your organization is very good, whereby individual cannot come to you as a business owner or as their manager. They can have confidential line, someone behind that line that they can talk to, and that helps them as well. Otherwise, if care is not taken, it will drive them to anxiety, depression, and then you'll be looking at long-term sickness. And what then happens? It will then affect your business because you'll be short-staffed. So just remember that. Yeah.
And I think just a shout out as well to mental health first aid training.
Yes, yes.
That particularly in organisations or small business owners who have staff, that is a really, really great opportunity for introducing some lifelong learning into the organisation by training people, either yourself or key managers in the organisation, to be mental health first aiders, because that then means that you've got almost like a support network. You've got the skills, the resources, the understanding to really pinpoint where somebody needs that help and to be able to kind of
address it on time. Yeah, I like that. And mental health first aid, it depends on what you're looking for. We have St. John's Ambulance that actually offers that as well. Red Cross, there's so many providers out there, and it depends on what you're looking for. We start as, it can be 1 day, it can be 3 days. It depends on how often you want them to kind of renew their qualification, and it really helps as well. So just remember, to think about your staff, think about yourself as well. Even as a business owner, if your mental health or well-being is intact, that is how you will have the headspace to support your staff and your family as well. So
family, friends,
Yeah.
wider community. It's such a good thing to do.
Wow, I can't think of anything, Michelle. I don't know, before we kind of round up this today's podcast, I don't know if you have one word for our viewers or a take home for our viewers.
I think I would sort of go with what I said at the beginning. 1% changes. Just don't think, oh my goodness me, I'm not in the best place, I need to do all these different things. What 1% thing can you do to improve your well-being today, now? Go take 5 minutes, breathe, which we so often forget to do, and just start with something like that. But I also want to just give another shout out to the attitude of gratitude. That's definitely,
I know.
that's part and parcel of all that we've spoken about today. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
How about you?
And I think for me, it's part to prioritize sleep. I know I'm saying that. I mentioned that I'm a very light sleeper. I get 7 hours a day. I think for us it is good as individual to aim for 7 to 9 hours quality sleep. Some people might sleep from 1 hour, 9 hours, but it's not a good quality sleep. Just to aim for that. So to prioritize sleep. I'm not going to say sleep all day to be lazy, but be kind to yourself. And I'm taking a leave over that as well. And I've been trying to do all of that as well to make sure I improve the quality of my sleep. Summer is here. We have shorter nights and longer days, and I actually struggle because by 4 o'clock my eyes are already open, bearing in mind sometimes I don't go to bed until 12 a.m. because my eyes are just wide open at that. So I'm trying to be kind to myself. But just to crown it all, just remember, whether well-being or mental health, these two can either affect people positively or negatively. But however we want to deal with it is actually entirely up to us, and not to keep quiet. And like Michelle said as well, let us open up, shout out, open up, seek professional help if you don't want to speak to friends or families. So important. Don't suffer in silence. There's no need. I don't know, Michelle, if you want to wrap up or...
Well, I think when we before we started recording, we already talked about a couple of people that we will probably bring on to talk in more detail about well-being and some of the things that you can do to improve well-being in your life. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, thank you for watching in, and let us know if anything has resonated with you in this episode or any of the earlier episodes. And if there is a subject that you particularly would like us to touch on, then let us know that too, because we want to make sure that we're covering the topics that business owners are really interested in or really struggling with.
Yes.
You know, if we can help in some small way, then that's what this podcast is aimed to do. So yeah, anything that you'd like to add?
Just to say thank you. Have a good weekend, and watch out for the next episode. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much. I shall see you next time.
Bye, everyone.